to set up the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, as well as developing guidelines for community policing. And in addition to these duties, I was also able to sit in a committee that was made up of stakeholders within the legal sector, and we developed what are now called the Mutunga rules because we felt concerned that we needed immediately the Constitution was promulgated to have the possibility for citizens to engage robustly with the provisions of the Constitution that allowed them to enforce their rights. And then at the regional level, I was a member of a task force or a committee that came up with a proposed bill for the East African community, a Bill of Rights for the East African community, and we engaged in advocacy with different government officials and also stakeholders from the member states. I was a leader of a delegation that went to Burundi that met with the government officials, with the Attorney General, with parliamentarians to advocate for the setting up of a National Human Rights Commission in compliance with the Paris Principles. I also led a delegation to the Nigerian government and had discussions with them to strengthen the statute that had set up their National Human Rights Institution. And I also got the opportunity to be elected as the Vice President of the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, which is a body that brings together all the national human rights institutions and is also the body that accredits national human rights institutions. Subsequently, I got the opportunity to support this body as a special envoy. And as a special envoy for this body, my work was to advise, to lobby, and to advocate for the objectives of this institution with international organizations. So basically UN agencies, the General Assembly in New York, the Human Rights Council in Geneva, members of permanent missions in Geneva and New York, as well as regional organizations. And then I teach at the University of Nairobi, which I love. I love teaching. It is something that I have done over the years. Even as a magistrate in the judiciary, I taught at the Kenya School of Law, and so I continue to teach there. I have had the opportunity to observe elections in Kenya and also internationally. And in 2019, I was part of a fact-finding mission that went to Zanzibar to examine the disputed 2015 elections where there were serious issues of concern. And we made a report to Katiba Institute of East Africa, Katiba cha Sheria, which is an East African NGO that deals with human rights, governance, and rule of law. Now, as far as I can say, these experiences that I've had have exposed me and challenged me. They have sharpened my skills in terms of dealing with very difficult and challenging situations, being able to work under pressure, being able to build cohesion, being able to bring very diverse interests together, and negotiating and also dealing with very high-level political actors. So I've had to deal with the attorney generals, with the ministers of justice, with chief justices, with parliamentarians, and also stakeholders directly, and citizens in different countries. For me, this experience has enabled me to actually look at myself as a public servant, to be able to be somebody who can use my position to bring people together, to work cohesively with others, but also to ensure that I do everything with integrity and also to exercise decisiveness when it is required. So that is, in summary, who I am. Yes, thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Florence. Are you a registered voter?
Yes, I am. I'm a registered voter. I have voted in all the elections and since I turned 18, I think, and the referendum. I vote at St. George's Primary School and have been a registered voter there for the longest time. The only other place I've voted before is in Langata constituency.
Okay.
Yes.
So in 2017, you voted at St. George's?
Yes, I did.
School. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll now request Mr. Maurice Kimuli to ask you a few questions.
Florence.
Yes.
I'll just ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Beginning from where Madam Chair finished with you. You said you voted in 2017.
Yes, I did.
Now we wrote to the Commission to check their records to confirm whether you are a registered voter. They responded to us and said they could not find your records.
That is very interesting because I have a voter's card and I voted in 2017. I am so certain of that. I am passionate about voting.
So if there is any report from the Commission saying that you're not a registered voter, it is the Commission that is wrong.
It is. I am certain of that.
Okay. But in your view, the duty to vote, do you think it has a place in our Constitution in terms of the national values? I'm looking at Article 10, which states that patriotism is the first aspect of our national values. You believe voting is your patriotic duty?
I believe it is my patriotic duty. It is also my civic duty.
And you do it?
And I do it.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the Commission is listening to your answers. Now, if I look at your case study, there are questions that you responded to. On the question of registration of voters, you spoke in a contingent manner. You said, because we had given a period of 6 months when the voters register was open for inspection, and you said there should be no further registration 6 months to the election unless the law allows registration to be done, in less than 6 months towards the election. Do you know the limitations imposed by law and the provisions of the law with respect to what time the voter register should be open for inspection?
Actually, in my case study, I had said, presuming that the law requires 6 months, I know that the law requires the registration to stop 60 days. So there's 60 days to elections where there's allowed for inspection and also verification of the biometric data.
So by the time you answered your case study, you had not checked?
No, I hadn't.
You hadn't checked?
Yes.
So you were not sure?
I wasn't sure, but I knew there was a period, a time frame within which you are required to close voter registration.
Okay. What about in the case of a by-election? Now you have checked.
Oh, okay. In the case of a by-election, is that it depends on when the by-election is published. So when you have a by-election, it is declared that there's a by-election. Immediately that declaration is made, then you cannot have voter registration.
Between the time of the declaration of by-election and the voting?
Yes.
In the by-election?
Yes.
Fair enough. Now, You mentioned in your biodata and in your application that there is a book you co-authored.
Yes.
With 2 other people. What was the title of that book?
Isles of Peace. That is the one that it was rising out of the fact-finding mission in Zanzibar.
You went there in 2019.
Yes.
Who are the other people you participated in the writing of the book with?
There's Professor Juju Cole and the other guy, I can't remember his name, but there are 2 Ugandans. But
Sabita.
Professor, yes,
Sabita.
Peter, yes.
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 There are 2 Ugandans.
Yes.
Now, that visit to Zanzibar was an initiative, you said, of which organization?
It's called Kituo cha Katiba. It is based in Tanzania, in Uganda.
They commissioned a study and required you to undertake it.
Yes.
You were remunerated for it.
Yes, we were, yes.
That report that came out of that study, was it your property or the property of Kituo cha Katiba?
It's actually the property of Kituo cha Katiba because they are the ones who commissioned the fact-finding mission and required the report to be done.
Now, if it was a property of Kituo cha Katiba, in your CV, you said you published a book. The book is a reproduction of that report.
Yes.
It's a reproduction of that report.
Yes, it is.
I have checked the records of that book. Some records indicate that it was published in 2018.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I mistook the date. So I think we went there in 2017.
Are you sure when the book was published? Because you have expressed it in your CV.
Yes, I have. I can actually send a copy to to the.
Are you sure
to
when
the
it was
panel.
published?
When it was published?
Yes.
I think it was it was after the fact-finding mission. So we did a number of, because the way that the process is done, you actually do a number of, copies because you keep redoing and editing. And then because it is Kituo cha Katiba, that's Kituo cha Katiba that is the owner of the document, it is them that determine when it is published. It is not the authors.
My expectation is that if I've authored a book, and I have it in my biodata, I would know with specificity when it was published. But let's keep there. Now that it was Kituo cha Katiba, an undertaking that was paid for, do you think you would then be right to take credit for the outcome?
For the authorship?
Yes.
Of course I have the right to take it because I put in my there was intellectual input into it. If the 3 of us had not gone to Zanzibar, if the 3 of us had not conducted the fact-finding, if we had not sat down and written, Kituo cha Katiba would not have any document to publish.
Fair enough. You as the head of the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, the commission did a lot of reports.
Yes.
Did you publish them as books and take responsibility, take the credit?
No, we did not, because there's a difference between the commission and an NGO or a private entity commissioning individuals. The commission is a public entity. When you do any work for the commission, you do it as a public servant.
You don't take personal credit for it.
No, you cannot take personal credit.
Let's just a couple of questions regarding this work that you did. You collaborated with 2 Ugandans.
Yes.
To go to Zanzibar.
Yes.
To investigate a disputed election.
Yes.
And you wrote a book out of it.
Yes.
Now, you're aware that Kenya, your country, has had manifold disputed elections.
Yes, I am.
You're aware that Uganda has had manifold disputed elections. Now, have you authored a book about peace in Kenya? Tanzania compared to Kenya and Uganda is child's play in terms of disputes in elections. I'm examining your patriotism to this country. Have you called your friends from Uganda to author a book on peace in Kenya? Have they called you to author a book on peace in Uganda, so that then it can demonstrate that your love for this country?
My love for this country is demonstrated by the fact that during the 2000 and 2008 electoral violence, the commission which I was heading investigated and published a report
I wouldn't want to cut you short.
Post-election violence.
I wouldn't want to cut you short because we have limited time. I know the commission has that mandate. We pay commissioners and members of the commission to do exactly what they did.
Yes.
I'm looking for your personal initiative. You went to Tanzania and wrote a book on peace in Tanzania and disputed elections. Have you, at the personal level, it's a simple question, done the same for your motherland?
I have not done the same.
You have not done the same. No, I get the answer.
Could I just make a clarification?
Yes.
I did not sit in my house and decide that I'm going to Zanzibar to make a report. I was requested as an expert to go to Tanzania. to Zanzibar. So it was not my personal initiative.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. So you've never had a personal initiative to write and give direction on the elections and disputes in Kenya?
No.
Now, in your CV, you also indicate that you are a member, now as the chair of the commission, you are a member of the Witness Protection Advisory Board in Kenya.
Yes.
That body is housed in the office of the Attorney General.
Yes.
Now, just confirm, that board specifically deals with protection of witnesses in criminal matters, in criminal proceedings.
Yes, it does, yeah.
Now, do you think, in your estimation, witnesses in election petitions are vulnerable witnesses who could require protection?
They actually do, because one of the reasons why the Witness Protection Agency was established was because the reason why the commission sits on that board was because the commission advocated for, we had discussions with the Attorney General, and our view was it is government's responsibility to protect any witness. And actually it was established after the 2007 elections, because we witnessed massive...
What was established?
The Witness Protection Agency.
We have agreed that it protects people in criminal proceedings. I'm not talking about witnesses in election petitions, an emotive question. It doesn't protect witnesses in election petitions.
No.
Did you think,
yes,
as an advisor to the Witness Protection Agency, that it was necessary to extend protection to witnesses in election matters?
Okay, so let me just explain my understanding of how this works. There's no exclusion of any witnesses under that act.
Just look at Section 3. The agency, in my understanding, can protect a witness who is under threat. So a witness that goes before the court has a mandate to even request for protection for a witness who is before the court. So notwithstanding those provisions, I am aware that courts can actually make a request. And if a court makes a request, the agency has no option but to offer protection to a witness who is before the court and is under threat. Fair enough. I said you just look at the act. It is very specific on who is protected. Now, in your view, do you think a petitioner in an election petition is a witness?
A petitioner?
Yes.
Yes, the petitioner is the primary witness because that is his case.
What do you think is the legal framework available in Kenya for protecting petitioners and witnesses who may be intimidated to withdraw election petitions? Or who may be killed?
As far as I'm concerned, I know that in your interpretation, the Witness Protection Agency does not have that mandate, direct mandate, but my understanding of the Witness Protection Agency's mandate is that anybody who is under threat and is under threat because of a case that is arising, a dispute that is before a court, that they have the duty and responsibility to extend protection
That's okay.
to such a person.
Florence,
Yes,
outside the Witness Protection Agency,
yes.
are you aware of any legal framework that would protect petitions or petitioners and their witnesses against a situation where you are intimidated to withdraw the petition?
Well, if you are intimidated to withdraw a petition, I am not aware of an official institutional framework, but my understanding is that if you appear before a court and make that claim, that the court can make directions. Or if you appear before the IEBC in its position, for example, if you feel that the IEBC can be able to take that as an offense that is related to being a party to an electoral process, then you can approach the IEBC.
So you are not aware of any express provisions of the law?
I am not.
You are not?
Yes.
Do you know the procedure applicable? Perhaps this is a more direct one. When I am a petitioner and I want to withdraw an election petition I have filed.
The procedure.
Yes.
I would imagine, because I have not been involved in election petitions, but the general principle in legal proceedings is that if you wish to withdraw, you will make the application to the court. So you have to notify the court that you are withdrawing your petition.
Okay. Well, perhaps you can just look at it. There is a very clear procedure, and that procedure is intended to protect the integrity of election petitions and to deal with situations where you may be pushed to withdraw an election petition. I thank you very much and all the best. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kimuli.
Thank you, Mr. Kimuli.
Okay, thank you. I'll now request Dr. F.S. Abdallah to ask you a few questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Jauko,
Yes.
true to the words on what you said in your statement, you have 17 years teaching law, special envoy, and all these institutions. You've been sitting there. I just wanted to know, your statement says you're quality and suitable candidate as you have the knowledge and expertise required to run a constitutional commission. I've read this in your application form, right?
Yes.
Now, we have noted in your participation in various institutions and involvement, all that. Were you appointed or invited to this institution because of your expertise and knowledge, or because of the fact that you are the chairperson of the KNCHR?
So the position as a special envoy or as the vice president of the organization?
Many others, like, you see, member of the task force develop a proposed bill on rights of East Africa, that member of the steering committee of the Network of African National Human Rights Institution, founding member East African Forum, the various anti-corruptions, the police training. Was it mandatory,
Yes.
as the chair of the Kenya Human Rights Commission, for you to participate or to be invited in those task forces or commissions?
It was, so what happened was that when the task forces were established, then they would gazette members of the task forces. So the membership was determined by the appointing authority, but I was appointed, even though I was appointed in my individual capacity, it was because I was in the commission. So the Gazette notice will actually specify the name, but it was because of the commission.
Okay, maybe you could clarify that. Suppose I was the chair
Yes.
Would I be appointed or would you be the one to be appointed?
No, you would be appointed, but your name it will not be written chairperson of the commission. It will be written Dr. Abdallah, chairperson of the commission. So, yes, I don't know if that makes it clear.
Yes, I want to believe that you are appointed in some of these institutions because
Yes.
of your position as the chairperson.
Exactly.
Not as
Yes.
Florence Simbiri with
No,
17 years
no,
experience in the law.
No,
Thank you.
certainly not.
Thank you.
Not.
Well, I am convinced, and I want to be assumed, with all this experience and 17 years of teaching in the law, I'm sure there's nothing you're not going to answer correctly pertaining to the law and the IEBC operations. So my request, and with the permission of the chair, rather than giving you questions, I want to have a conversation on how we can improve the situation which has been going on and how it can be, how you could help if appointed the commissioner for IEBC. So the word is no question, the word is I want to have a conversation.
Okay.
Right, madam. There are some beliefs that good school would give one a ticket to ride and the career choice would allow you to travel on the train of success for all your life. I would like to hypothetically believe that you agree to this statement. Right. What would you recommend to our youth nowadays when uncertainty is defining future? As we cannot prepare the world for our youth, but we can prepare the youth for the upcoming changes in the world. Mm-hmm. Especially as you are aware that the youth are majority and they are, of course, as an experienced lecturer, what would you like to advise our youth with in inevitable changes coming up?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Abdallah, for that question. I am sure that there would be different perspectives to it. But my advice to students or to the youth is usually to, first of all, once you have chosen a certain career path or you have chosen a subject that you want to study, my advice is that you have to be excellent. You have to aspire to be the best person in that space where you are. It's important for you to be outgoing, to volunteer for different situations that might arise as a result of you being a student. So if you are in a student space, to engage in as many activities as possible that can expose you to different environments. Because my belief is that currently it's not possible to tell a young person, for example, I would not tell my law students that because you have studied law, you must become a lawyer, you must practice the law. So my view and my advice to a student or to my students usually is that the law just opens doors. It is, education is there so that you can equip yourself with certain skills that enable you to be more versatile in the market, but also to look at education as something that enables you to, in a sense, exploit your creativity and to be innovative. So if, as a young person, you are passionate about music, you are passionate about writing, but you're studying law, there is absolutely no reason why you should not develop your passion, why you should not engage in something that gives you a lot of satisfaction. So considering that studying law is just an avenue to make you more knowledgeable, to make you more versatile. So that is what I would advise my students. But excellence And being a person of integrity, being a person who is committed, are things that will endear you to an employer, will endear you to your clients. If you decide that you want to go into business or you want to go into your own private work. So just developing your person as an individual is so important beyond education.
Thank you, Madam. So you'll agree that, and what I hear from you, Madam, that degrees and qualifications are only important as a launching pads, and not landing sites. Your learning happens as your life happens.
Yeah.
Right? And Madam, maybe you could tell us now, a law student takes how long to complete to come to the degree at the place where now they can exercise or they can use their degrees to engage into employment?
How long?
How long? How long
I'm
does
sorry, I had a knee surgery, so I may not hear you very well. So
I will be more than happy to repeat myself.
Yes.
I'm saying, so we are on the same level, that degrees and qualifications are only important as a launching pad, right? Not landing sites. Meaning we could use your education degrees to launch your ambition.
Yeah.
Right. And your learning happens as your life happens simultaneously. You're doing your learning, but the actual learning in real life goes with your life. Right. Now, here we are. We've got a law students. You know, many of us when we were young, we wanted to be lawyers like you, engineers, and that. Sometimes I trained as an accountant. I landed up in business. Right. When can that be dictated or communicated to the student? Here we are. You've got a student who wants to come and, enroll as a lawyer. How many years does it take? What I'm trying to
How many years does it take?
Yes.
Yes.
To qualify, to graduate.
To qualify to be a lawyer.
Yes.
So to be a lawyer, you have to do the 4 years at the university. So that is, you get your bachelor's degree. And then you go to the Kenya School of Law, where you do practical, where you're taught, the trade of being an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. You also do an attachment with an experienced lawyer, a lawyer who is qualified. And then after that, if you pass your exams at the law school, you are admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Once you're admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, you can apply to work in private practice, you can work in the government sector, but it is also possible for one to qualify with a bachelor's degree and do something else. So the law school is only to qualify you as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. So it's possible to do things with your Bachelor of Law degree.
So we're saying, Madam, that after 4 years,
Yes.
is that when the person is maybe free to do something else? So
Yes.
is there any mechanism as advisors, as lecturers, as policymakers in that you don't let the students spend the 4 years?
That
Because they can do something else. So you could study law, but of
Yes.
course they follow their passion.
Yes.
Now I realized that after 2 years that my passion is not this. I want to get into business.
yes.
What happens to that student the 2 years he spent?
Actually, there's no legal mechanism or framework or policy. I think, and that is why it's the responsibility of the lecturers and the people around the student to advise the student. So then the student, if they display, an interest in another area where they are more passionate about, then it's about guidance and mentoring of that student. And guidance and mentoring happens at the university, but it also happens outside the university. But the university makes available forums for students to interact with different, people from different business, from organizations. So those are the opportunities that the university can give to students to be able to develop themselves. and to identify the kind of career paths they would want to have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. All the
Abdallah.
best.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Abdallah. I'll now request Mr. Gideon Solonka to ask you a few questions.
Yes, Madam Simbiri. Let me begin with a very simple one. What are the 4 qualifications for nomination as a presidential candidate under Article 137(1)?
So you have to be in compliance with Article 10 of the Article 73 of the Constitution. So in compliance with that.
That's number 1 for you. That is
There's also citizenship. People can apply to be citizens of Kenya, and it's a process for that application.
Kenya for the office of president.
Because
Supposing he renounces the other citizenship.
if he renounces the other citizenship, yes, then they're a citizen of Kenya.
So you can run for presidency.
I can't say with certainty.
You can.
That there's a requirement.
Okay. What is the other one? 2 more. Give me 2 more.
So the other qualifications are, I have talked about the article, the chapter 6, citizenship, not have a criminal record. So you shouldn't have been convicted of a criminal offense with the 6 months conviction.
You through? You need to look at that Article 137 again.
Yeah.
Yes. What about disqualifications?
Disqualifications.
Yeah.
So you
Under
would be,
Article 137 too?
you'd be disqualified if you have that conviction, a conviction, if you are of unsound mind. Yeah, if you're not a citizen of Kenya, obviously you'll be disqualified. Which is the other one? If you're not in compliance with the Article 6 of the Constitution.
Again, I request you to look at Article 137(2). Now, let's go to the real issue here. Result management was a serious point of contention in the 2017 presidential election. And you remember the Supreme Court presidential petition number 21, that it was one of the main issues. Kindly address us on how presidential results are processed and transmitted from the polling station to the National Tallying Center.
Okay, so the results, the first point is at the polling station, and then from the polling station you have them go to the tallying centers at the constituency level, And from there, they go directly to the National Tallying Center. And the requirement, I believe that IEBC has certain forms that they use for collecting the results at the polling station, where the results are tallied and collated, and these forms are signed that then make up the constituency results. Then when they are taken to the National Tallying Center, it is the National Tallying Center that has the responsibility of consolidating all these results that have come at the national level. My understanding is that this case, the minor KI case, which established that the results that is brought to the national level must be at the polling station. That first polling station is the one that constitutes what the National Tallying Center does, and the National Returning Officer has no role in correcting or rectifying any errors that might be in the results that are taken to the National Tallying Center.
Thank you. What are these forms you've alluded to?
I think it's 34A, 34B, and 34C.
Okay, who signs 34A? And where is that done?
34 at the returning office at the constituency, at the polling station.
Yeah.
And then the returning officer at the constituency level.
So you're saying that 4A is signed by a returning officer?
Yes, it's the returning officer at that level.
Which level?
The polling station level.
You sure of that?
Yes, the must, yeah, because that is the person who is responsible for those results, and they actually announce the results there.
Then from 34A, what happens?
Then it goes to the constituency.
Yep.
Then from the constituency, it goes to the National Tallying Center.
Okay. Now, we've had IEBC complain of insufficient network to transmit presidential results from the polling station to the National Tallying Center. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yes.
What proposals are they given to deal with that problem?
So the problem they have is because of the electronic transmission
Yes.
of the results, and the challenges they've had is the failure of network, and their argument is that for this to be done seamlessly, you need 3GB networks in all the polling stations in the country to be able to do that. So one of the things that they've recommended, and I think they've been working on, is to work with the service providers to ensure that there is network that can be able to transmit the results. But there are also areas that have no network at all. That means that those results have to be moved to an area that has network for them to be transmitted. When that fails totally, then those officers are actually forced to carry the physical ballots to the National Tallying Center. So that's, I think that has been the challenge for IEBC in terms of just those logistical arrangements.
Thank you. Let's go to another issue, and this is on voter suppression. This is a real threat to the people's right to free and fair elections, and it happens throughout an electoral cycle. What is your understanding of voter suppression?
So voter suppression is where you make it difficult for voters to register and also to vote. So I believe that the Constitution actually provides that in terms of registration of voters, we should not have administrative measures that make it challenging for voters to register. So this could happen in terms of voter registration. It could happen where, and this from the case study that you gave us, for example, there were the 2 million youth who do not have identity cards. When the youth do not have identity cards, it means that they cannot vote, they cannot register as voters. That is an aspect of voter suppression, because those voters, eligible voters, are not able to vote. The requirement that you can only register with a national identity card can be a problem, because some of those young people, they have maybe birth certificates that could be used or other alternatives. So it would, the country will have to think of, to avoid that, you need to have maybe alternative documentation. So there are countries where they allow people to use multiple registration information. Then during voting, it is also possible to suppress voters when there's violence, when there's intimidation, and this is beyond the electoral management body. So this is an external process that suppresses voters. On the other hand, the electoral management body can also be accused of voter suppression if they do not allocate, accessible voting or polling stations. Then voters who are unable to access polling stations, either because of distance or because they are persons with disabilities and there's no proper arrangement for them as persons with disabilities, maybe persons with minority languages. So that would suppress them, because it would automatically mean that either they avoid going to vote, or when they go to vote, they encounter enormous problems.
Thank you so much. Now, lastly, security is a major concern among us employees of IEBC and the electorate during an electoral period. And you recall that during the last elections, there were incidences of insecurity and physical harm to IEBC employees and voters and even children, citizens of this country. Now, from your CV, I've seen that you are a member of the Task Force on Police Reforms in Kenya and Police Reforms Implementation Committee between 2009 and 2012. What measures can IEBC put in place to address these concerns of insecurity? Just briefly.
Okay, so within the law allows for IEBC to work closely with the national police. Actually, under the law, any officers who are seconded to the IEBC during elections are under their direct control. So I think that there's need for I don't know if there's need for better clarity, because I'm not an insider in IEBC, but how they exercise that control over the officers who are seconded to IEBC during an electoral process. But security also means it's not just those officers who are seconded to IEBC. The general security that the National Police Service still has to maintain during an election period means that IEBC has to have serious discussions with the National Police Service to preempt any possible security lapses. So IEBC must always have this scenario building processes where they can predict where is insecurity most likely to happen, and then put in place mechanisms. In addition to actually educating the public about having a peaceful election, and ensuring that the public themselves do not engage in violence or intimidation that then escalates security situations.
Thank you, Madam Jaoko, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solonka. I'll now ask Madam Elizabeth Mayo to ask you some questions.
Thank you, Chair. How are you, Florence?
I'm fine.
I want us to talk about practical issues affecting our stakeholders, the electorate. You have just confirmed to us now when Maurice asked you a question about your status as a registered voter. And the information we have from IEBC is that they cannot get your records. But you have confirmed to us that you have an elector's card, you even voted.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I feel very bad, Madam Mayor. Actually, in 2017, when I went to vote, I was shocked when I put my fingerprint there and they could not find me. And then I was given a book, they checked, and I wondered, I am in St. George's in Nairobi. If I cannot be found by the biometric, what about somebody who is out of, somewhere else? And there was no explanation, you are just moved to the next place. So I felt I did not feel happy about it.
So can it be true that the information you
Yes.
have was obtained manually while IEBC was using biometric to identify the voters, and that is why they cannot get your information?
No, they actually asked us to go back. We had to go back to the polling stations to give our biometric. And in any case, in 2013, we already had the biometric, the electronic elections. And I voted in 2013 as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that you know that challenge is there,
Yes.
if you are appointed a commissioner now,
Yes.
what would you do to ensure that voters don't go to polling stations and they find their names are not there? How will you address this challenge?
So I think this is about the IEBC, ensuring that within the legal frameworks that they have and the regulations that they have, that give them authority to update the voters register, to inform voters, to check on their details. And when voters check on their details, hopefully the information that you're getting is correct information. So it is for the IEBC to actually clean up their voter registers, to be sure that when they are updating, because one of their roles is continuous updating of the voters' roll. So that means that anybody who has been a voter for a long time, they should have your information. So I think for me, if I joined the IEBC, I would really find out how does this happen and how do we make sure that every voter actually is recognized within their system, whether it is in the electronic or the manual system. And my understanding would be that there should be no difference between the electronic and the manual.
Okay, thank you, Florence. Now that you have identified the challenge, what information will you communicate to the electorate, some of them watching you now, such that they can avoid having their names not in the register when they turn up at a polling station? What information can you give the public?
So I think that if there are issues like that, first of all, the IEBC is responsible for voter education. I believe that this is an aspect of voter education, informing voters of lapses that could occur. Obviously, as IEBC, you don't want to say that you're going to have so many lapses that you're just setting people up, that they're going to come and they're not going to find information. But to inform the public that in the event that this happens, this is the procedure that will happen. And when it happens to anybody, to capture that information so that at the end of the voting period, IEBC should have information of voters who did not find themselves in the system and be able to then correct the system. Because once you have your elector's card, it is also very difficult for the IEBC official at that point to tell you, no, you cannot vote. but to keep that record and then to communicate to the public after the elections that these are the numbers that we found, these are the steps we are taking, and we have now rectified, please come and verify.
Okay, Florence would like this done before the election, because if it is after the election, it means that
Yes.
the people affected will not vote. Am I right?
The people who are not in the system.
Yes.
Yes, but
So-
that is why the IEBC has to give information, and they have the mandate to publish the information that now you can inspect the register.
Thank
You can come and verify your biodata and make sure that at least all the electors have done that. If they haven't, I think IEBC should also have some bulk SMSing system, because they have your other information where they can be able to send messages to people who have not verified their information.
Okay, thank you, Florence. So, in order to make it simple for the electorate,
Yes.
what can you propose to simplify this process? I don't need to travel all the way from Kisumu to come and inspect the register at Kibera. So, what proposal can you give to simplify the process?
Well, first and foremost, people should be able to verify their information at the polling station at the station where they are registered. They should also, because the constituency offices of the IEBC, they have 290 constituency offices, so those should be points where people can go to physically. But they should also have, because they are required by law to publish the roll of voters online on a website. So that means that for those who can access online services, they should be able to check their documentation. They can also use what I believe, other government agencies are using, where you can check your information. You can put in your ID and be able to see, am I a registered voter, and where am I registered?
Okay, thank you,
Yes.
Florence. My next conversation is touching on the response you gave Mr. Solonka on transmission of results after the people have voted. One key challenge that IBC must work on is to instill confidence on the electorate,
Yeah.
especially after the electoral process. Supposing that in polling station X, the media reports that candidate Y got 10,000 votes. But the commission, in its final reporting, gives that same candidate, same polling station, got 5,000 votes. The electorate will be
Yeah, there'll be a
wondering which one is correct.
Yes.
So how will you deal with such a challenge?
So
Having different results from the same polling station for the same candidate.
So first of all, I think that from the word go, IEBC should have SOPs with the media and other stakeholders, observers, agents, where you're able to say that the person in charge of this polling station, when you're making the announcement, because you have a form where you're saying these are the results, that you actually give the same information to the media, because the media are not the ones who are responsible for counting the votes. But the way votes are counted in Kenya, it is in public, and people are able to see this is vote for who, and the numbers. So it is that person at the polling station who has the responsibility to ensure that information that is given to all these stakeholders within that polling station is the same. Now, if there's a problem in such a scenario, then obviously the IEBC national office needs to deal with that and have a correction of that information. So my assumption would be that the media probably did not get it right. If the media are right, then that would be a very tragic situation, because it means that this document, that is the only record of what the results are, is not correct.
Okay, thank you, Florence. From your response, you are concluding that you feel maybe the media was not right. Why do you think the media was not right and not IEBC?
So I'm not saying that not IEBC. I'm saying that you have all these other stakeholders at the polling station. So you have the political party agents, for example.
Yeah.
It would be useful for the national office to find out, because this is a case where you have to investigate internally what went wrong. So you have to find out. So is it only the media that is reflecting this result? What are the political party agents or the candidates' agents? What are their results? Because before you try to make a correction and address the public, you must establish your facts. If it is IEBC that is wrong, then IEBC must come out and own that and actually apologize to the citizens who voted in that polling station.
Okay, thank you, Florence. So you agree with me that for you to get a solution to this problem, you must know the cause.
Yes,
so in your view, what do you
Exactly.
think can be the cause of this kind of a variance?
Yes.
What do you think can be the cause?
What could be the cause
Yeah.
of such an occurrence?
Yeah, of the variance.
Of the variance.
Figures, yeah, different figures, yeah.
So the variance, so that's why I'm saying that the media, my assumption is that the media are present in a polling station when the results are being given out. Now, the media are allowed to tally their own, to make their own tallies. In a polling station, there are different streams at the polling station. So the idea is to collate all these results that are coming from the different streams. So if there is a problem, for me, the evidence would be that do you have all the forms from each stream? What were the results from each stream? What is the addition? If the addition shows that IEBC is wrong, then it means that something could have happened in the course of either doing the additions themselves, or because the media were not allowed to observe properly during the counting.
Okay, thank you, Florence, for that. You also touched on the role of the youth.
Yes.
So what innovations would you bring to IEBC to enhance engagement of the youth and improve on voter registration amongst the youth?
So, okay, so I think that the youth in Kenya are very versatile, and they are they engage very robustly with social media. They engage very robustly with alternative, let me just say social media and other alternatives. IEBC could engage in a very robust manner through their social media pages. They could also organize, discussions with the youth, with youth groups, because youth groups do exist. And they could use YouTube streams. They can do Zoom meetings or Meet meetings with different types of youth. And they could use universities, they could use schools, especially if you want to capture those who are required to register and to vote. You could actually target schools where students are turning 18, they are going out, they are registering as national citizens, and you also then need to provide them this information. They could also engage with the national registration of persons. So when you become 18, you register as a citizen, you're given an ID card. They could organize with that organization to include information, because usually when you register nowadays, you get a message from the bureau telling you your documentation is ready. So they could add a message there. You are now eligible. Congratulations, you are an eligible voter. Please go to the next station and register. So just engaging those spaces where the youth are and encouraging them and making them aware of their civic duty to register and to vote.
Okay. Thank you, Florence.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll now request the Vice Chair to ask you a few questions.
Thank you, Florence. Now you have held what I would call significant careers and leadership roles in your professional life. Regional, you've held positions at regional level and led the missions at regional level, national level. But coming down specifically to Kenya, what would you say in your professional life are some of the most significant achievements in this country? Things that you can say, this matters so much to me.
That significant things that have happened in the country?
Leadership positions.
Yes.
Those achievements that you really count as valuable to you in this country, especially those achievements that have to do with the development of this country.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Achoki. Yes, I've held various leadership positions. I think that one of the most high-profile ones was being the chair of the National Commission on Human Rights. And in my leadership capacity there as the chair, I was able to steer the commission during some very turbulent times in the country. And one of the challenges that we faced, especially during the 2007-2008 elections, was the fact that the country was so fractured, and as a commission, we had been monitoring campaigns, we monitored elections, and the violence happened on all of us. And there was therefore need for all of us, and especially institutions that deal with governance, to rise up to the occasion. And we did rise when you do a report like that, it is not for your internal consumption. It must be something that you're saying that there are government agencies that can be able to do something, that we need to have preventive measures, we need to address with my undertaken to come to the conclusions that we did. We also gave specific recommendations that we felt would be important. I can assure you that the discussions were not always very friendly, but the important thing was that this was leadership. You have to do what you have to do, and you have to recognize that you are working within an environment where there are then also to reassure the citizens that we had interacted with that we are not just collecting information for the fun of it. We are actually going to pursue institutions that are responsible to ensure that, first of all, your current trauma, your current laws is addressed, but also that there'll be a future in Kenya where this will not happen.
Thank you, Florence. Just picking up from there, we had those events, those unfortunate events in 2007, 2008, as you mentioned, and you did all that as a commission and under your leadership with other agencies. Did all that work. We had the Kriegler Commission, the Waki and Kriegler Commission, follow up on those issues. Yet in 2017, again, we had a repeat of almost similar issues, violence, loss of life by citizens. What is amiss? What is missing in this equation, in our, in the way we manage our democracy? What is it?
Okay, so my assessment is that we probably have a leadership deficit, leadership that brings people together, that believes in the Constitution, because we no longer have the excuse that we do not have a normative principle or, that we can organize our lives around. So for me, the idea of a constitution being a document that governs our democracy, that reassures every citizen that there's the rule of law, must be demonstrated by those who are in leadership. And those who are in leadership need to take that mantle of being at the forefront, leading by example. So when we have the 2017 election violence, it's, in my view, I think that, yes, there's the external political happenings that mean that at the root of it, as Kenyans, we have not yet understood that an election is very important. It is the time when you directly engage with your civic duty and your right to choose your leaders. But an election should not lead you to now go into violence against your neighbors. It's a competition that should be won fairly. And for me, this brings me to the role of IEBC, because the IEBC sometimes seems to be the weak link in all this. Because why do leaders wait until an election period to heighten these things? Is it because they know that if you do this at this point, then you have a natural institution that you can say, actually, as we've been doing very well, we are good leaders, but look at IEBC, it cannot deliver credible elections. And the minute IEBC does not deliver credible elections, then you have an excuse to tell your followers that, it is not us, we don't have the responsibility of counting your votes. There's somebody who has it and they did not do a good job. And therefore you have a justification to be angry at IEBC and then translate this anger towards your neighbor. So I think it is a question of leadership at the wider level and a greater understanding of the IEBC, of the role that they play in this once a 5-year time for every citizen in this country to go out and express their political will.
Now, Florence, supposing tomorrow you successfully go through the interviews process and you get appointed as a commissioner of the IEBC, how do you help fix these issues and these problems?
Okay, so first, of course, I would have to understand the internal workings of the IEBC. I'm fortunate that I've worked in a in a commission, in a Chapter 15 commission, and so it may be an easier entry into their space. But I would then look at how many months do we have to the next elections, because everything now must be about 2022. What are the minimum things that you need to do? So I would think that if I went into IEBC, I would be asking myself, there are many issues that have been raised about things that are not there, that have not been done, that need to be done. But 2022, IEBC has to carry out an election. So I would be asking myself, what are these minimum things that already exist that can ensure that a credible election will be held? Because there are some things that you're not going to resolve in the 1 year. So forget about those. Think of, is it possible to hold a credible election within the resources that you have, with the shortcomings in the law? How do you do it? So that would be my approach, that it is 2022. I will work with the minimum that I have to ensure that these are credible election.
Thank you, Florence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'll now request Reverend Father to ask you a couple of questions.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me, Madam Florence, to take you through just a few questions. From your application and your biodata, you indicated that you are special envoy to the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institution.
Yes.
You are also working with the University of Nairobi.
Yes.
Now, my question would be, how do you manage a potential conflict between the roles if appointed to be a commissioner?
The potential for conflict. Okay, so right now I'm not the special envoy for national human rights institutions. The University of Nairobi is a public institution, and I would not take the two positions. In 2007, when I joined the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, I was a university lecturer, and I requested for leave of absence. I also informed the university to stop my salary because I am not supposed to get salaries from two public institutions. So that is what I would do, because it is what I've done in the past, and it is also what is required in the law.
Thank you, Madam Florence. Allow me to ask you just like a general question. What are the national languages of Kenya?
The national languages of Kenya is English and Kiswahili. Yes.
Great. Now, unafahamu Kiswahili?
Ninafahamu, lakini kuongea ndio sio didi sana, kwa sababu unajua sisi hatukufanya Kiswahili kwa nini, what is it called? The 844 people had compulsory Kiswahili, lakini sisi ni kujua tu Kiswahili kwa kuzungumza, kusikia, ndio.
Ukipata nafasi ya kuwa commissioner, na uende huko mashinani, na unajua watu kwa mashinani wakati mwingi hawakifahamu Kiingereza.
Ni kweli.
Na upate nafasi ya kuelekeza wananchi kufanya uchaguzi wa haki. Ni jambo gani ungewaeleza kwa Kiswahili, kwa ufupi tu, waweze kufanya ndio uchaguzi huwe wa haki kwa Kiswahili?
Kwa Kiswahili kwamba wanatakikana wafanye nini?
Waelekeza kwa njia ya kufanya uchaguzi kwa njia ya haki.
Kwa njia ya haki. Kwa hivyo sasa niko mashinani. Kwanza nitaeleza tuko hapa, sisi ni commission ya IEBC, sisi ndio tuko na jukumu wa kuendekeza elections, na sasa tunaelekea upande wa uchaguzi, na tungependa tufanye kazi pamoja, sisi kama commission na nyinyi wananchi, ndio tuwe na ile uhusiano mwema kati yenu kama majirani, kwa sababu kuna watu wako na nini, wako kwa political parties ambayo pengine wewe uko kwa Jubilee, pengine mwingine hapo kwa Wiper, lakini kwa upande wetu IEBC tungependa kwamba mkikuja kufanya uchaguzi msiwe na ubaguzi, muwe kwamba muwe na oh my goodness. Okay, so let me just answer this, Father Mutie, in this way.
Yeah.
That okay, this is so bizarre, but when I was a judicial officer in Kibera, I worked in Kibera Law Courts as a judicial officer. When I went there, I could hardly speak Kiswahili. After about 2 years, I mean, I can understand, I speak, but you know how I'm not confident.
Okay.
In 1 year's time, I used to deliver my judgments in Kiswahili, because when you are in that environment and people are giving their evidence in Kiswahili, and there's no point, I was actually the person telling advocates, just ask in Kiswahili, because you know, things are lost in translation. So by listening and knowing the terminology that I needed to use, I was able to deliver my judgments in Kiswahili. So believe it or not, if I'm joined IEBC, I will know the language, the proper Kiswahili words that will communicate what IEBC needs to communicate. So I will not shy away from it. And I did the same in the Commission of Human Rights.
Thank you, Florence. I see time is not on our side. I would have asked you some more questions, but kindly, Chair, I appreciate the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Father. Florence, allow me to just ask one follow-up question in view of the fact that you have served on a constitutional commission. The current IEBC strategic plan does highlight that there are key challenges that are facing its independence.
Yes.
Article 249(2) seeks to safeguard the independence of constitutional commissions, and says, they are only subject to the Constitution and the law, and they are not subject to the direction or control of any authority. Now, control comes in different forms. You served in a commission that received funding from donors, external funding, and IEBC similarly can receive this funding. So I just want to find out, how would you, if you are an IEBC commissioner, safeguard the independence of the commission from any interference, even through the control of funding by external donors? We are living in a world where we've had in other jurisdictions,
yes,
or where other countries have been alleged to interfere with the elections of certain countries. So what kind of mechanisms or measures would you put in place? Give me just one, actually, to ensure you safeguard the independence of IEBC.
In funding?
Yes. With regard to funding from
with regard to external funders. So the most important thing, and this is what I did at the commission at KCHR, because we sought for funding from donors. What we did was to ensure that our strategic plan included all the activities that we wanted to do. And when you have a strategic plan that encompasses everything, and it is a credible strategic plan, then you go to anybody who wants to fund you, because even government wants to know, they give you funding, but they want to know, what are you going to do with the money? So for me, it would be to ensure that any funding that comes to IEBC is based on the strategic plan. So you will be funding the strategic plan activities of the IEBC, because if you don't do that, then you're opening this window where a funder can come and tell you that, we are interested in this area, and you did not put it in your strategic plan. So then the funder has control, even though it is something that is significant for you, but who has control? The person who has identified it for funding. So you gain control by having a very credible strategic plan and only sourcing funds through that strategic plan.
Thank you so much, Florence. We've now come to the end of your interview. I can invite you to make any remarks you may have to the panel.
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much, Chairperson and panelists, for giving me this opportunity to come for this interview. I am sure that it's not an easy process, and I'm just honored and privileged to have been given the opportunity to be one of the candidates that you have interviewed for this process. And I just want to wish you all the best in the rest of the interviews. I want to assure you that as a Kenyan, I would be so happy to see a commission that will safeguard our political right to elections, that will give us a credible election. And I am sure, I have no doubt, that you are capable of giving us those people, even if I'm not one of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Florence. And on behalf of the panel, on behalf of Kenyans, thank you also for offering yourself to serve in this position, and we do wish you all the best. So a member of the Secretariat will walk you out. Please ensure you take your original certificates, and we wish you a very good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now take a break and resume at 11:30 for the next interview.
Well, good morning to you. My name is Daniel Wahome, and this is News Check. It's a Monday when we are keeping up with the interviews for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissioners. And remember that after the review of the IEBC Act, then there was the requirement that the commission has got to be properly constituted, and President Uhuru Kenyatta set this in motion when he appointed the selection panel that's chaired by Dr. Elizabeth Muli, with James Awori as the vice chair. And that panel also has Advocate Gideon Solonka, got Mrs. Elizabeth Mayo, the Reverend Joseph Gumbi, and Dr. Faradim Abdallah. And the candidate who has just left is Florence Simbiri Jaoko, who is a former chair of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and has also been a member of the steering committee of the Network of African National Human Rights Institutions. So at the moment, she has been an advocate of Kenya and worked as a judicial officer in Kenya for over 15 years, and she's worked in various government task forces. More interviews to be conducted today, because there are 3 interviews per day, each lasting 1.5 hours. And next to be interviewed is Francis Wanderi, who's from Nyeri County. He has got Bachelor's of Education degree in the University of Nairobi, and also has a Master of Science in Education Management. Remember that one of the roles of the IEBC, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, is voter education. What input would he bring in after being shortlisted from the candidates who applied for the job as IEBC commissioners, took the psychometric tests and started that? And also to be interviewed today, we've got another lawyer, former LSK vice chair, and this is Ms. Harriet Chigai. She has got a Bachelor of Laws from the University of Nairobi and is a former chair of the Law Society of Kenya. So the interviews will be going on today, and Ms. Harriet Chigai is going to be interviewed at 2 p.m. Mr. Francis Wanderi is going to be interviewed from 11:30 a.m. after the selection panel takes that half-hour break. Also happening right now, and this is at the High Court in Nairobi, is the hearing of the murder case involving Migori County Governor Okoth Obado. It has started and it's going to be heard over the next 4 days. And our reporter Sarafina Robi, we shall be joining the proceedings at Milimani as that continues. What are the key issues that are for the people who are looking for the position of commissioner? 4 seats that have got to be there. This is after the resignation of Commission Dr. Rosalina Kombe, Commissioner Paul Kurgat, Commissioner Margaret Mwachanya, and Commissioner Connie Maina, and that was after the 2017 general elections. And most of these commissioners did resign over the dispute over the presidential election. So much conversations about the qualifications for one to be president, that are being asked to the commissioners, and also the political rights of people. This is something that has got to be protected by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Also, the responsibilities of leadership that are required, knowing that if you become a commissioner of the IEBC, then you are required by law to drop any other duties that you've got as you are a state officer, as stated in the Constitution, and those are the responsibilities that have been assigned to you as a leader. Also, how well do they understand the general principles for the electoral system and also the laws that have been put in place, the nomination of candidates, how one qualifies to run for any seat as an independent candidate, plus also the legislation on elections are set out through the amendments that are coming in, and there is a law whose operationalization had been suspended until after the 2017 general elections. That law comes into force with the next general elections, which means it's the Election Financing Act. How much do you spend? How open are you about your sources of the campaign funds that you've got? How much do you spend on the media? Is it radio? Is it print? Is it television? Or is it outdoor advertising? All that is captured in there. And also the people who are supposed to be managing the finances, they are required by law to be declared through the register of political parties, and if there is any change in that 9-member committee for each political party or people around a candidate, then that must be declared, including your bank accounts. This is to ensure that campaign spending is not a threat to the integrity of the election process. Also, the eligibility, how well do you understand the eligibility for people to run as candidates, be they for the parliamentary seats of the National Assembly and the Senate? And there is also the woman representative of every county. There is a member of the county assembly, the governor of a county, and in the presidential election, we did hear Advocate Jaoko being asked about the qualification by a member of the selection panel, Advocate Solanko. And what is the overall role of the IEBC? How independent is it? How does it manage its finances? We shall be joining the selection panel again, and this is at 11:30 a.m. Our sign language interpreter over this hour is Lenzo Dingo. Let's listen into the proceedings at the Milimani courts. Let's take a little breather and get back to the list of candidates who are yet to be interviewed.
Check out for a KDIC sticker in your banking hall. KDIC, protecting your deposits.
I've got to hide this now. I don't think you need to be anxious. Even heroes fall for beauties. Emperor Tianhui is a man regardless of his paranoia.
I never thought Fei Ye would marry a laughing stock and a jealous girl. What bad luck. The day she came, Fei Ye was attacked and injured. What will come next?
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente.